Underestimation. The massive Viridian warship Eternal Conquest emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system, its crystalline hull gleaming in the distant sunlight. Grand Admiral Kret stood on the command bridge, his scaled skin shifting colors with anticipation as he gazed at the blue-green planet displayed on the main view screen. "Such a fragile-looking world," he remarked, the 6 fingers of his right hand tapping against the tactical display. "Preliminary scans confirm what our probes reported. Primitive nuclear fission technology, rudimentary space presence, and minimal orbital defenses." First Commander Velix approached, her ceremonial armor clicking softly as she moved. "The Conquest assessment gives us a 99.7% probability of success, Grand Admiral. Their most advanced weapons are chemical propellant missiles and a handful of laser platforms that wouldn't even scratch our secondary shields." Kret's mouth slits curved in what passed for a smile among his species. The Viridian Empire had expanded across 17 star systems in the last cycle alone. This unremarkable world would be their 18th acquisition this season, barely worth noting in the Grand Imperial Archives. "Their communication networks indicate they call themselves humans," Velix continued. "Intelligence suggests they possess unusual adaptability for a pre-spacefaring species, but nothing that would pose a meaningful challenge to the Armada." Kret's inner eyelids flickered with amusement. Every species believes itself special until faced with the reality of their place in the cosmic hierarchy. "Prepare the standard contact protocol." The massive view screen shifted to display the image of a female human in what appeared to be a simple blue uniform with minimal insignia. Kret noted the lack of battle markings or dominance displays, further confirmation of their primitive status. "Attention unidentified vessels," the human said with unsettling composure. "This is Commander Eliza Hayes of Earth Unified Defense. Your fleet has entered restricted space. We have no desire for conflict, but we will defend our home. You have 24 Earth hours to withdraw beyond the orbit of Saturn. This is not a negotiation." Chittering laughter erupted across the command bridge. Kret silenced it with a subtle gesture, even as he shared in their amusement. The audacity of these primitives was almost admirable. "Transmit our response," he ordered. "Inform these humans that the Viridian Empire accepts only complete submission. Any resistance will result in the orbital bombardment of their major population centers until compliance is achieved." "Transmission sent," the communications officer confirmed moments later. Kret settled back in his command throne, already contemplating how these humans might serve the Empire. Their planet had abundant resources, and the species itself might prove useful for labor on the harsh mining colonies. The human reappeared on screen, her expression unchanged. "We understand," she said flatly. "You were warned. May whatever gods you worship receive you with mercy." The transmission ended. Stunned silence fell across the command bridge. "Did they just threaten us?" Velix asked incredulously. Kret felt an unfamiliar sensation, a flicker of unease. In 300 conquest campaigns, no species had ever responded with such calm certainty when facing the might of the Viridian Empire. "Conduct a full scan of the planet and surrounding space," he ordered. "Search for any concealed defenses or weapons platforms." "Nothing significant detected, Grand Admiral," the sensor officer reported after a thorough analysis. "Their orbital assets are rudimentary communication and observation devices. Their defensive capabilities consist of obsolete missile technology and ground-based energy weapons that cannot effectively reach orbit." Kret relaxed his posture. "Then their bravado is meaningless. Commence the demonstration bombardment. Target their largest population centers on the landmass they call North America." The massive weapon arrays of 30 Viridian destroyers aligned toward Earth, charging their primary plasma cannons. The expected destruction would force a quick surrender. It always did. "Firing sequence initiated," the weapons officer announced. "Impact in 5 time units." The command bridge fell silent as they waited to witness the beginning of yet another conquest. Then, without warning, the tactical displays erupted with alerts. Energy surge detected from Earth's surface. The sensor officer called out, voice rising with alarm. Multiple launches from ground-based facilities. Defensive missiles. Kret asked dismissively. They cannot reach our altitude. These are not following conventional trajectories, Grand Admiral. The officer replied, confusion evident in his voice. They're accelerating beyond expected parameters. On the view screen, hundreds of sleek projectiles rose from Earth's surface, moving far faster than Viridian intelligence had indicated was possible for human technology. Evasive maneuvers, Kret commanded. Raise shields and prepare countermeasures. But the order came too late. The missiles struck with precision. Bypassing the Viridian ship's energy shields through means the tactical computers couldn't analyze. 3 destroyers erupted in explosive decompressions before they could fire their weapons. Impossible. Velix hissed. Their technology was assessed as centuries behind ours. Kret's skin darkened with agitation. All ships, abort the bombardment. Regroup at coordinates Beta 9. As the Viridian fleet regrouped, more alerts sounded. A swarm of smaller craft had launched from Earth's surface and its moon, which intelligence had reported as being only sparsely inhabited by a research outpost. They're deploying fighters, the tactical officer reported. Hundreds of them, with energy signatures we cannot identify. The human fighters moved with unexpected agility, weaving through Viridian formations with precision that spoke of either exceptional skill or advanced navigation systems, neither of which should have been possible according to their intelligence reports. Deploy our interceptors, Kret ordered. All ships, target those fighters. The space around Earth bloomed with weapons fire as Viridian interceptors engaged the human fighters. The battle should have been swift and one-sided, but the humans displayed combat tactics that caught the Viridian pilots completely unprepared. They fought not as individuals but as coordinated units, sacrificing themselves when necessary to achieve strategic advantages. We've lost 27 interceptors, the tactical officer reported, his skin pale with distress. Human casualties are high, but they continue to press the attack. Kret watched in growing disbelief as his forces, the pride of the Viridian Empire, were being effectively countered by a species that, according to all intelligence, should have surrendered at the first sign of their superior technology. Grand Admiral, the communications officer interrupted. We're receiving a transmission from one of our damaged cruisers. It's being boarded by humans in mechanized combat suits. Boarded. Kret's voice rose with indignation. How did they breach the hull? Unknown, Grand Admiral. But the boarding parties are overwhelming our security forces. They appear to be capturing the ship, not destroying it. A new transmission appeared on the view screen. The same human female, but now wearing what appeared to be combat armor. Behind her, Viridian crew members were being restrained by humans in powered exoskeletons. This is Commander Eliza Hayes of Earth Unified Defense, she stated. We have secured one of your vessels and are extracting its technological database. I suggest you consider your position carefully. Grand Admiral Kret. This is merely our opening response. The view screen returned to an external view of the battle. 3 more Viridian ships had been disabled, surrounded by human vessels that appeared to be preparing for boarding actions. How do they know my name? Kret demanded. How did they penetrate our encryptions? No one on the command bridge had an answer. Grand Admiral, the sensor officer called out, voice shaking. We're detecting massive energy buildups from Earth's moon. Something is emerging from the lunar surface. The view screen shifted to show enormous structures rising from concealed lunar bases, orbital defense platforms that dwarfed anything in the Viridian arsenal. They hadn't been there during the initial scans. Somehow, the humans had concealed them from Viridian sensors. All ships, withdraw immediately, Kret ordered. Retreat to the outer system boundary. As the Viridian fleet scrambled to escape, the lunar platforms locked onto their positions. Beams of concentrated energy lanced out, cutting through Viridian shields as if they were atmospheric mist. In moments, 12 more warships had been reduced to drifting debris. This cannot be happening, Velix whispered. The conquest simulations gave us a 99.7% probability of success. Kret's eyes fixed on the view screen as his fleet scattered before the human counterattack. The simulations, he said slowly, were based on flawed intelligence. A final transmission came through as the Eternal Conquest prepared for emergency faster-than-light jump. Commander Hayes's face appeared again, now grim but resolute. You came to our home uninvited, demanded our surrender, and threatened our civilians. This was your first mistake. Your second was believing we wouldn't be prepared. Your third was assuming we would show mercy after your threats. You wanted war, Grand Admiral. Now you have it. As the transmission ended, Kret realized with growing horror that this wasn't just another conquest gone wrong. They had awakened something terrible, a species that had somehow concealed its true capabilities until provoked. And now the humans were coming for them. The reckoning. 3 solar cycles had passed since the disastrous first contact with Earth. Grand Admiral Kret stood before the Viridian High Council, his once vibrant scales now dull with exhaustion. The holographic displays around the chamber showed the current state of the conflict, and it was not favorable to the Empire. Explain how this happened, Grand Admiral, Imperial Sovereign Malik demanded, his ceremonial crown pulsing with angry red light. How did a previously uncontacted species manage to repel our armada and launch a counteroffensive against 3 of our border colonies? Kret's inner membranes flickered nervously. The intelligence was catastrophically flawed, Imperial Sovereign. The humans concealed their true technological capabilities and military readiness. They allowed us to observe only what they wanted us to see. The council chamber erupted in angry chittering until the Imperial Sovereign raised a hand for silence. What we now understand, Kret continued, is that the humans have been aware of extraterrestrial life for over 70 of their years. They recovered technology from crashed scout ships belonging to the Zentari Collective and reverse-engineered it while maintaining the appearance of technological inferiority. And their military doctrine? Asked War Minister Dravix. Unlike anything we've encountered, Kret admitted, they do not fight merely to conquer or defend. They fight to eliminate threats permanently. Their historical records, which we've now partly translated, show centuries of internal conflicts that have honed their tactical thinking to a terrifying edge. The holographic display shifted to show footage captured from the Battle of Outpost Kelderix, a fortified Viridian installation that had fallen just 2 cycles earlier. Human ships, now identified as belonging to something called the Earth Defense Fleet, had bypassed the outpost's outer defenses using technology that allowed them to briefly phase out of normal spacetime. They adapted their ships to incorporate technology from our captured vessels, Kret explained. Their learning curve is unprecedented. And their ground forces. The War Minister pressed. Kret activated another recording. It showed human soldiers in powered combat armor engaging Viridian troops. The humans moved with coordinated precision, using tactics that exploited weaknesses in Viridian combat doctrine that no enemy had ever identified before. They fight as unified units, with a mixture of strategic calculation and emotional ferocity that our troops find difficult to counter, Kret said. They have also demonstrated a willingness to sacrifice individual lives for tactical advantages, something our psychological profiles indicated they would be reluctant to do. What of the diplomatic initiatives? Asked Council Mediator Zevnar. Surely they must see the futility of prolonged conflict with the Empire. They have rejected all communication attempts, Kret reported grimly. Their only message, repeated after each engagement, is unconditional withdrawal from all human space or face extinction. They are not interested in negotiation. A heavy silence fell over the council chamber as the implications became clear. The Viridian Empire, dominant for 12,000 cycles, faced an enemy unlike any they had encountered before. There is more, Kret said reluctantly. Our long-range sensors have detected a massive buildup of human forces near their home system. They appear to be preparing for a major offensive. Against what target? The Imperial Sovereign asked. Based on their trajectory. Veridax Prime. The council erupted in panic. Veridax Prime was not just a border colony, but one of the Empire's oldest and most populated worlds. Impossible, the War Minister exclaimed. They cannot have the capability to strike so deep into our territory. They have been systematically capturing our navigational beacons and studying our FTL network, Kret explained. And they have developed a method to trace our emergency jump signatures back to their origin points. Before the council could respond, an urgent communication interrupted the proceedings. A junior officer appeared on the main view screen, his scales pale with distress. Imperial Sovereign, Grand Admiral, we have detected a massive energy surge approaching Veridax Prime. Multiple human vessels have emerged from unregistered jump points. The holographic display shifted to show a terrifying sight. Hundreds of human warships, far more than had been deployed in the initial Earth defense, emerging around Veridax Prime. At their center was a vessel of unprecedented size, dwarfing even the largest Viridian dreadnoughts. By the first clutch, whispered the Imperial Sovereign. What is that? They call it the Retribution, Kret said, his voice hollow. It appears to be a mobile fortress capable of planetary assault operations. The Council watched in horror as the human fleet deployed around Veridax Prime, not in a bombardment formation, but in a blockade pattern. They're not attacking, the War Minister asked, confused. A transmission cut through all Viridian communication channels. Commander Hayes appeared on screen, now wearing what appeared to be formal military attire with new insignia. Attention Viridian Empire. This is Admiral Eliza Hayes, Supreme Commander of the Earth Defense Fleet. Your colony of Veridax Prime is now under our control. We have disabled your orbital defenses and neutralized your military installations. We have not, I repeat, have not targeted civilian populations. She paused, her expression stern but not triumphant. This is not the outcome we wanted. You came to our home, threatened our existence, and left us no choice but to demonstrate that humanity will not be conquered or subjugated. We are transmitting coordinates for a neutral meeting ground. In 48 hours, your representatives will meet with ours to discuss terms for ending this conflict. The transmission ended, leaving the council chamber in stunned silence. How did they achieve this? The Imperial Sovereign finally asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Kret's inner eyelids flickered. They studied us. While we saw only what we expected to see, a primitive species ripe for conquest, they were learning our weaknesses, our patterns, our technology. They prepared for war while showing us peace. And now, the mediator asked, now we must face the reality that we are not the superior force in this conflict. Kret replied, I recommend we accept their invitation to negotiate. 2 days later, Grand Admiral Kret's shuttle approached the designated coordinates in neutral space. A small asteroid had been hollowed out and pressurized to serve as a meeting ground. The humans had arrived first, their massive retribution vessel maintaining position at a respectful distance. As Kret disembarked from his shuttle, flanked by diplomatic aides and security personnel, he found himself in a simple chamber with a circular table at its center. Admiral Hayes stood waiting, along with several other humans in similar uniforms. Grand Admiral, she acknowledged with a slight nod. Thank you for coming. Kret observed her carefully. This close, he could see the signs of exhaustion in her face, lines that hadn't been there during their first encounter. The war had taken its toll on both sides. Admiral Hayes, he replied, your demonstration at Veridax Prime was effective. The Empire is prepared to discuss terms. Please, be seated, she gestured to the table. As they sat, Kret noted the absence of weapons or overt security measures. Either the humans were foolishly trusting, or, more likely, they had security systems beyond Viridian detection capabilities. Before we begin formal negotiations, Hayes said, I think it's important that you understand something about humanity, Admiral Kret. Kret's scales shifted in the pattern that indicated attentiveness. For thousands of years, humans fought each other, she continued. We nearly destroyed ourselves several times, but in doing so, we learned something crucial about our nature. We are at our most dangerous, our most innovative, and our most determined when threatened. She leaned forward slightly. 70 years ago, when we recovered the first alien technology from a crashed Centauri scout ship, our world leaders made a decision. We would present ourselves to the galaxy as less advanced than we actually were. We would develop our technologies in secret, build our defenses, and prepare, because history taught us that encounters between civilizations with disparate technologies rarely end well for the less advanced. A deception that served you well, Kret acknowledged. A precaution that saved our species, Hayes corrected. When your fleet arrived and immediately demanded surrender, you confirmed our worst fears about what awaited us in the galaxy. We responded accordingly. Kret felt a strange mixture of admiration and dread. And now, what does humanity want from this conflict? Peace, Hayes said simply. But peace on terms that ensure our security. We have no interest in conquering your empire, Admiral. We want only to be left alone to develop as we choose, to explore space on our own terms, and to ensure no other species makes the same mistake your empire did. And Veridax Prime will be returned to Viridian control once our terms are met. No civilians were harmed. We evacuated your military presence and disabled your weapons. The colony continues to function normally under temporary human oversight. Kret's inner eyelids flickered in surprise. The humans had the upper hand but weren't seeking territorial gains or resource acquisition, the usual objectives of interstellar conflict. What are your terms, then? He asked. Recognition of Earth and all human colonies as sovereign and inviolable territory. A demilitarized buffer zone between our spheres of influence. Technology exchange programs under controlled conditions, and reparations for your unprovoked attack on Earth, to be paid in knowledge rather than resources. Kret considered the terms. They were surprisingly reasonable, given the humans' current military advantage. The Empire will need assurances that humanity will not use its military capabilities against us in the future. Hayes nodded. Which is why we're proposing joint defense exercises and observer exchanges. We want you to understand us, Admiral Kret. We want you to know exactly what would happen if you chose war again, so that you never make that choice. For the first time since their disastrous first contact, Kret began to understand the species he had so grievously underestimated. The humans didn't want conquest. They wanted deterrence. There is one more thing, Hayes added. A personal request. Yes. I want you to tell me, honestly, did you truly believe that any sentient species would simply surrender their homeworld without a fight? Did you really think we would bow before a show of force without exhausting every possible means of resistance? Kret's scales shifted to a contemplative blue. Our experience suggested as much. Most species we've encountered valued survival above all else. That was your fundamental misunderstanding of humanity, Hayes said quietly. We value survival, yes, but we value freedom more. We would rather die on our feet than live on our knees, an old human saying that I suspect you now understand all too well. Kret nodded slowly. A costly lesson for the Empire to learn. Let it be the last such lesson between our peoples, Hayes offered, extending her hand across the table in what Kret recognized as a human gesture of agreement. After a moment's hesitation, the Grand Admiral extended his six-fingered hand and completed the gesture. The moment aliens realized humanity was going to war, Kret said, was the moment we began to understand who you truly are. Perhaps now we can begin to learn who we might become together. Admiral Hayes's expression softened slightly. That, Grand Admiral, is the first truly wise thing I've heard from the Viridian Empire. As the formal negotiations began, Kret couldn't help but reflect on how differently this all might have gone if they had approached Earth with curiosity instead of conquest. The Empire had always seen itself as the pinnacle of evolution, the natural rulers of lesser species. Now they faced the humbling reality that the galaxy held powers and potentials they had never imagined. The humans had taught them that underestimation was the first step toward defeat. It would not be a lesson the Viridian Empire would forget.